The Dichotomy of Leadership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. Google defines dichotomy as a division between two things that are or are represented as being opposed or entirely different. It also defines leadership as the action of leading a group of people or organization. What does it mean when you put these two together? In this review, I'm going to do what I can to answer that question and many more, going over the chapters of this book, things I learned, things I liked, things I wasn't maybe so crazy about, things that kind of confused me a little bit. I'm also going to go over some standout quotes, who I recommend this book to, and what books to maybe check out next. Just so you guys know, there are affiliate links in the description, and if you buy anything through those links, like maybe this book, then I get commission, which helps me build this channel and keep making these videos. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Sam, and I want to make self-growth normal, because people shouldn't have to look this information up. It should just be mainstream knowledge. If you agree, then please make sure to smash that like button. The authors begin right off the bat discussing what they learned from war. He said that everything they learned doing is as universal and or transferable as how they came to understand the power of leadership. The principles of leadership are simple, but they're not easy, and they stress this multiple, like so many times throughout the book. This is the follow-up book of their previous work, Extreme Ownership. They lay out the concepts with clear descriptions and context so it can be read and understood independently from the first book, but in both books they reference their experiences as Navy SEAL officers. I do want to give a quick thank you to the authors for their courage and bravery. As I always tell veterans, our country could not exist without that of you and your peers. So if, for whatever reason, the two authors are watching this review, we humbly appreciate your effort to protect us and keep us safe. Now, much of the experiences they had that they discuss in this book or from the Battle of Ramadi during the Iraq War of 2006. I think something I just couldn't get behind with their last book that made it, to me at least, inaccessible at the time, this was a couple of years ago when I reviewed it, was the vocabulary from military experience. It just felt like I would have to look things up constantly to make sure I understood exactly what was happening in the stories. It also kind of happened in this book, but the more I kind of heard those terms, the more I was like, okay, well, this kind of makes sense. Aside from that, these stories are very vivid and beautifully told. Even in the introduction, like, what is an AOIC? And what is a platoon? What does a radio man do? What is a M2 Bradley fighting vehicle? And what is an M1A2 Abrams tank? I don't know, do they have to specify what kind of tank? What is an LPO? And what is a lead navigator? Call it silly and call me an idiot if you want to. I mean, don't get me wrong, probably well over 1 million people have checked out that book and this book together, and I'm sure they understood it. Maybe I just couldn't as easily. I suppose a lot of people who check this out were in the military. I wouldn't be surprised at all, and they know what all of it is. In the author's defense, they do explain quite a few of them later on in the book. The most common place where readers and listeners apply the knowledge in this book is without a doubt a business setting. These guys actually run a leadership consulting company called Echelon Front. The introduction centers around the concept of balance in leadership and why it's important. I think I can see why they did this for the introduction, given the rest of the book is probably going to be about dichotomies of what to do and what not to do, and that's pretty much kind of what it is. But throughout each chapter, they sort of tie them together. It's really cool how they do this. There are 3 parts. There's balancing people, balancing the mission, and balancing yourself. Let's start with balancing the people, because why would you start with another of the 3? No, come on. Chapter 1 is the ultimate dichotomy. There are a lot of stories in this book, like a lot. Like this battle, it must have been, the fact that you can write 2 books about what you learned in it and center those around certain themes, this must have been like the most action-packed battle you could possibly battle. He honors the crap out of lost soldiers too, I'm sure, as he should. Mark Allen Lee, an amazing warrior, friend, brother, son, husband, uncle, man of faith, comedian, and truly incredible spirit of a human being was gone. The burden of such loss settled heavily on my soul. You have to find a way to be a leader and follower. Being confident but not cocky. Being aggressive but still cautious. Being bold and at the same time thoughtful. See this whole thing about what to do, what not to do? I mean, grade A, right? Chapter 2, own it all but empower others. So if you look at the chapter names like resolute but not overbearing, train hard but train smart, and discipline and not rigid, for example, it seemed clear to me at least that what they were trying to do here was use their history as Navy SEAL officers, of course, to explain with clarity the dichotomy between different facets of quality leadership. These dichotomies, as per the definitions at the beginning of the video, they're pretty stubbornly opposed to each other, and they sound like contradictions when you put them together. This is just a perfect example. Chapter 3 is, resolute but not overbearing. I want to do every one of your jobs. I know how to do them, and I know how to do them right. I know how to make sure no one is ever late. I know how to make sure we never forget anything for a mission. I know exactly how to do that, and I want to do that. I want to run every facet of this platoon to the exacting and unwavering standards that I know can't be questioned, and I also know that that is not the right way to run a platoon. I know that will stifle your growth as SEAL team leaders, others, so I'm going to give you one more chance to ensure that nothing like this ever happens again. Everyone will always be early, you will always remember the gear, you will conduct every mission, every operation, every training event as if it is the most important thing in your life. If we drop the ball one more time, you are done, and I am taking over. Do you understand? They took so much ownership hearing this, the platoon by the way, that like the authors had to step back and let them lead later on. Can a leader take too much ownership? Actually, yeah, they can. But you need to let your team make decisions too. Chapter 4 is when to mentor, when to fire. There was a mission when they were given radios that they needed in order to communicate with each other when they were all lonely, and almost none of them programmed those radios because they didn't know how and they needed to understand the importance of it, but they didn't know that either. If Jocko didn't explain it to them and show them how to program it, that could have cost lives, human lives. In the book, they also use examples with their clients, which I really like, the business clients. They say to know when to stand firm and when to stand back. And like, you know, how if you enforce new rules and stuff, make sure you explain to your team why they are what they are. But those rules may beg for exceptions, and you need to know when to trust your team with the smaller stuff in terms of those exceptions. Check the book out and check out this chapter if you want to know specifically what I'm talking about. Part 2 is balancing the mission. I'm going to go into chapter 5. Chapter 5. Train hard, but train smart. There was a story in the previous chapter about firing a guy they called Rock. They gave him chance after chance, and he just didn't know he couldn't do what he was supposed to do. When you fire someone in the SEAL teams though, you are ripping out their heart, smashing their dreams, taking them from their friends, ruining their career, and essentially taking away their livelihood. But at the same time, there's a heavier burden. The lives of everyone else in the platoon. Men and women who count on every SEAL to do their job and do it well. They wanted to be loyal to him, but they also had to be loyal to the rest of the team. And I love how they did this, like drawing these lines in the sand. After acknowledging both sides of the coin, they seriously laid it out for you so that it's very clear. I think the best thing about this whole book is how they were able to do this. Chapter 6, aggressive but not reckless. Most chapters have at least one major story from the author's experiences in Ramadi and another major story from their experiences with clients, VPs, CEOs, etc. They did this with a considerable amount of poise, and they were professional with covering up names. Not that that's a very difficult thing to do. Some people are really not that good at it. I don't know how, but I wonder what some of these people would say if they read the book. Like the guy in the one chapter about the phones in the meetings. Chapter 7, disciplined but not rigid. I don't know. By this point, I think I got the point. They see one side of the coin, they acknowledge it, and then they acknowledge the other side of the coin, and then they sort of, like I said, draw that line in the sand. They told an extensive story of each coin, or paradigm, or leadership principle per se, in how it applied to their experience in the military, and another of how it applied to their experience with their business consulting. Chapter 8, hold people accountable but don't hold their hands. Accountability is an important tool that leaders must utilize, but it shouldn't be your main tool. It has to be balanced with other ones, like making sure that your team understands the why, empowering people, and trusting them to do the right thing without oversight. And lastly, part 3, balancing yourself. With chapter 9, a leader and a follower. They stress here the importance of finding the balance between being a leader and follower. It reminded me of the one chapter about being resolute but not overbearing. And when I reached this part, it kind of hit me that a lot of these sort of overlap into each other. And if you check out this book, and it might feel a little bit repetitive at times, that might be what I was just saying in disguise or something. I don't know. For me, that's kind of how it was. But a leader must be willing to lean on the ideas of others for the good of the group, really. They must be willing to listen and follow others regardless of their experience. And it doesn't matter who gets the credit, only that the mission is completed in the most effective and efficient way possible. I also noticed that a lot of their clients, they already checked out extreme ownership. A clever or maybe unintentional plug for their previous book, for lack of a better word, plug. But it's clear to me that it really makes sense that it could not easily, maybe simply, but not easily, lay out a clear, explicit guide to something like ownership or leadership in business or military or teams, or just running something with people, some sort of team or group. And people will still need your help with it, because life is so unpredictable. It really is. There are so many things that can go wrong. It is literally, you couldn't write enough books about this. Chapter 10 is plan, but don't overplan. People have more questions the bigger your following grows, but also that book seems to have put Willink and Babin on the map. And I think the reason it's like this is that the principles can be difficult to implement in different areas of your life. The authors will even admit that they struggle with this from time to time. Chapter 11 is humble but not passive. They finished the book with an indelible poem or passage, I don't know what it was, about what it means to be a soldier and a warrior and fight for the side of history that matters to you. Lastly, chapter 12, focused but detached. Their experiences from Ramadi and business consulting, they do a splendid job dissecting the dichotomies of what makes effective leadership effective leadership. Overall, the stories are stellar. The concept is executed with discipline and creativity, a rare combination. These dichotomies help effectively tie the main idea together, and the level of teamwork between both co-authors is unmatched. These guys are lion-hearted. They're strategically heavyweight and concretely experienced in what they do. And after checking out Dichotomy of Leadership, to say I'm hoping for them to put something else out in the future would be a massive understatement. Quotes. One of the things that make it so hard to fire someone is the knowledge that the leader has not done everything they can to lead the poor performer. Regarding hiring a replacement, who said you have to bring someone in? Why not bring someone up? When it comes to standards as a leader, it's not what you preach, it's what you tolerate. Direction 1. I recommend this book for anyone whose leadership could use a little bit of moderation, the big MOD. And anyone who is or wants to be in charge of a team but feels like their approach could use a little bit of refinement. Direction 2, if you check this book out and you have not checked out their other book, Extreme Ownership, definitely look into it. Also, The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz, and on the more empathetic side of things, Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. The Dichotomy of Leadership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. There's a link in the description if you want to check it out and read the reviews. That and all the other books that I mentioned in this video if you want to check those out too. If there are any other books that you guys want me to check out and review, please let me know in the comments below. Also, let me know if you checked out this book and you liked it. But hey, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, because I don't get why people watch this far into my videos and they don't subscribe. But if you have subscribed and you want to turn it up just a notch and turn on that notification bell to get a notification whenever I drop new videos, that would mean the world to me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. You can find me everywhere, and I will see you then.